Sri Lanka's deposed former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa returned to Colombo near midnight on Friday. He had fled Sri Lanka in early July as the country faced its worst economic crisis in its history. Rajapaksa arrived at Colombo's Bandaranaike International Airport. He flew from Thailand via Singapore. He was greeted by lawmakers from his party, the Sri Lanka People's Front, a sign of his enduring influence in the country. He then left the airport in a heavily guarded convoy. Rajapaksa had fled to Singapore in early July after protests against his management of Sri Lanka's economy reached a boiling point. Protesters had stormed Sri Lanka's presidential palace on July 9th, which was the same day Rajapaksa was escorted out of Colombo by the Sri Lankan military. Rajapaksa stayed in Singapore for close to a month before he left for Thailand. He was reportedly unhappy in Thailand because restrictions imposed by Bangkok officials meant that he was a virtual prisoner at a Thai hotel. Just last month, Rajapaksa's younger brother Basil Rajapaksa had a meeting with the current president Ranil Wickremesinghe. He had asked Wickremesinghe to provide protection for Gotabaya's return. Being a former president of Sri Lanka, Rajapaksa is constitutionally entitled to housing, a vehicle and bodyguards. Opposition politicians have accused Wickremesinghe of shielding the once powerful Rajapaksa family. Sri Lanka has endured months of shortages of crucial goods, including food, fuel, medicines and skyrocketing inflation after running out of foreign currency to finance essential imports. But after months of negotiations, the International Monetary Fund agreed on Thursday to a conditional $2.9 billion bailout package to repair Sri Lanka's battered finances. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by correspondent Dasuni Athauda from Colombo. Dasuni, welcome to the broadcast. Now, my first question to you is, former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has returned home after weeks of fleeing Sri Lanka. How has the reception been so far?
Well, a very good morning, Ananya. Like you mentioned, at the stroke of midnight in the early hours of today, the former president did arrive into Sri Lanka, and the public in general, are just waking up to this news here on a Saturday morning. Now, the public sentiment is to be seen that this former president must be held accountable for spearheading Sri Lanka, especially during a time of its worst economic crisis. And many of them blame him for poor mismanagement and especially inaction during the last few months here in Sri Lanka before he was forced to flee on the 14th of July.
Right. Now, Gotabaya Rajapaksa left the country after massive protests broke out against his mishandling of the Sri Lankan economy. Do you think his return could spark fresh demonstrations?
Well, Ananya, it's a little too early to sort of suggest whether there would be more protests and anger that might pile on, especially given the fact that the current President Wickremesinghe, has made it very clear that he will support protests as long as they are peaceful, but will not stand for violence, which is what we did see, especially on the 9th of July as well. So it will be interesting really to see how the people will react, provided that during the time that the former president was not in the country, many of them did want him to return and to be held accountable as per Sri Lankan law. But we also have to keep in mind that Sri Lanka's constitution does give immunity to a president, but who is now a former president, but also gives them some form of personal privilege and luxury, which he will surely enjoy given that he is now under tight security and surveillance.
Absolutely. Thanks for getting us the latest. That was Dasuni Athauda joining us from Colombo.